They smile in your face, but deep down, you haunt them. Not because you did something wrong, but because you remind them who they'll never become. You're not a villain. You're not dangerous. But your presence exposes everything they've buried deep within themselves. You walk into a room, and they flinch. Not outwardly, but spiritually. Their energy shifts. Their tone changes. Their eyes get shaky. Why? Because you are the mirror they've spent their whole life avoiding. There's something about you they can't explain. And that's why they talk behind your back. That's why they discredit you. That's why they minimize your power. Because if they don't, they have to confront the truth. They're uncomfortable around you not because of you, but because of the lies they live. You're the kind of person they think about late at night. Not because of love, but because they're trying to figure out why they can't shake you, why your name still echoes in their mind, why your silence feels louder than a crowd. You didn't choose this. You just chose to be real. And in a world that thrives on illusions, being real is the scariest thing of all. You became the nightmare not because of evil, but because of your refusal to stay small. Your growth terrifies them. Your healing triggers them. Your peace confuses them. And your confidence, that's the final blow. They thought you would break. They thought the silence would destroy you. They thought the rejection would make you beg. But instead, you elevated. Instead, you evolved. You made solitude look sacred. You made isolation look powerful. And now, they watch you from the shadows, not with love, not with admiration, but with fear, because you were supposed to fall apart. You were supposed to need their approval. You were supposed to beg to be let back in, but you didn't. You became your own hero, your own source of validation, your own rescue mission. And that made you unforgettable, not in a romantic way, not in a friendly way, but in a haunting way. You don't haunt them because of what you said. You haunt them because of what you saw. You saw through them. You saw behind the masks. You caught the lies they told themselves. You recognized the emptiness in their smiles. You witnessed their shadows, and you didn't flinch. That's what scares them. Most people go through life pretending they're okay, pretending they've healed, pretending they're not jealous. But you carry a frequency that makes pretending impossible. You're raw, you're rare, you're real. And when someone like you enters the room, everyone else is forced to feel what they've been avoiding. You didn't need to raise your voice. You didn't need to seek revenge. All you had to do was rise. And now they're losing sleep over your silence. Because your absence made one thing painfully clear. You were never the problem. You were the revelation. They thought pushing you away would bring them peace, but instead, it brought them torment. Now, every room feels emptier. Every smile feels faker. Every win feels incomplete, because you were the one with real energy. You were the one with a clean heart. You were the one who didn't need a mask. They see you now, thriving, glowing, unbothered, and it shakes them, because it means they were wrong. Wrong about you, wrong about themselves, wrong about what they believed power looked like. See, you're not just surviving, you're becoming what they could have never imagined. You're proof that pain can create power, that betrayal can become a blueprint, that abandonment can awaken divinity. You didn't chase closure. You didn't chase answers. You didn't even chase revenge. You chased purpose, and purpose gave you peace. But to them, your peace is intimidating, because they thought peace came from control, from dominance, from validation. And here you are, peaceful without them, peaceful without proving anything, peaceful without pretending. And now they whisper. They create stories. They question your motives, not because you're deceptive, but because they can't figure out how someone so wounded could still shine. You are the proof that darkness doesn't win. You are the proof that silence can speak louder than revenge. You are the walking reminder that someone can go through hell and come back carrying heaven. And that terrifies them. Because deep down they know. You saw them clearly. You saw the truth behind the mask. You saw the insecurity behind the arrogance. You saw the envy behind the laughter. You saw the weakness behind the cruelty. And you didn't call it out. You just walked away. And in doing so, you told the loudest truth of all. That's why you're the nightmare they can't escape. Because they know that you know. And the truth has a memory. It lingers. It echoes. It plays on repeat. Your presence reminds them of what they could have been if they had chosen healing. Your voice reminds them of what they silenced within themselves. Your energy reveals their emptiness and your success. It proves that they were never your limit. They were just the test. They were the cocoon. But you were always the butterfly. And now, they're haunted. Haunted by what they lost. Haunted by what they tried to destroy. Haunted by the realization that you were never beneath them. You were beyond them. And they'll never admit it. They'll never say it out loud. But they feel it. Every time your name comes up. Every time your light is mentioned. Every time someone says, you know, they really turned out amazing. Because you did. You rose from the ashes they left you in. You built a throne from the stones they threw. You turned isolation into transformation. And now, you walk with a presence that says, I'm not angry. I'm not broken. I'm just free. And nothing is scarier than someone who can't be controlled. They tried to paint you as the villain. They whispered, twisted stories, and hoped others would believe them. But time has a strange way of revealing the truth. Now people are starting to see. You weren't toxic. You were just true. And truth doesn't need to yell. It doesn't need to prove. It just waits. And now that your truth is standing tall and undeniable, they're scrambling to rewrite history. But it's too late. Because energy never lies. The same people who laughed at your struggle now study your strength. The ones who said you were too much now sit in rooms that feel too empty without your presence. You were the fire they couldn't contain. And in their fear, they tried to smother you. But all they did was teach you how to burn brighter, on your own. They underestimated what happens when a soul stops trying to please and starts living in alignment. They didn't expect you to find peace. They didn't expect you to glow in silence. They didn't expect the comeback to be this powerful, because they never understood the depth of your spirit. See, you weren't broken. You were just buried. Under doubt. Under fear. Under their projections. But something in you refused to stay down. You dug your way out, one truth at a time. And now that you've resurfaced, you don't just shine. You blind them. You blind them with clarity, with boundaries, with self-worth. And the worst part for them, you don't even hate them. You've outgrown the need for revenge. You've outgrown the need for validation. You've outgrown the illusion that they ever had power over you. That's why you're unforgettable. That's why your name still hits different. Because you carry something rare. Something real. Something they can't imitate, duplicate, or destroy. You're the lesson they didn't want but now can't unlearn. You're the reflection they tried to break, only to discover that you were a mirror made of steel. Unshatterable. Unmovable. Unbothered. Now, they walk around with forced smiles and tired souls. Because they feel your presence even when you're not there. Your memory isn't a wound. It's a reminder. A reminder of what authenticity looks like. A reminder of what strength feels like. A reminder of what happens when someone chooses growth over gossip and healing over hate. They lost access to you, not because you wanted to punish them, but because your energy no longer fits into places that thrive on pretense. You've changed. You've upgraded. You're no longer willing to shrink for people who fear your light. And they feel that. Every single day. You were never just a phase. Never just a moment. You were a spiritual experience, a shift in their reality, a disruption to the illusion. And that's what makes you dangerous. Not in a cruel way, but in a revolutionary way. You represent everything they're afraid to become. Free, aligned, unapologetically awake. So they try to erase you. They try to replace you. But no matter how far they run, there's a part of them that knows they'll never meet another like you. Because people like you don't come around often. You're the kind that shows up once, teaches a lifetime lesson without speaking a word, and leads with grace while they're still figuring out what just happened. You don't argue anymore. You don't explain. You've elevated beyond the noise. You've tapped into something higher. And that frequency doesn't entertain drama. It transcends it. They stare at your glow and wonder how you did it. But they forget the nights you cried in silence. They forget the betrayals you endured in stillness. They forget the pain you transformed into purpose. They want your light, but they don't want your path. They want your strength, but not the suffering that built it. And that's the irony. They tried to break you, but all they did was reveal the warrior you were born to be.